No one will remember the fact he fought Jake Paul. They'll remember the fact he knocked Klitschko out in Wembley in 2017.
Totally agree with that.
So I'm kind of, whilst I don't like it, and I don't like the way that Jake Paul gravitates to these brilliant athletes and like a moth sucks the life out of them because he gets a benefit of association, because I think they deserve all the association.
Roy Jones Jr. has sparked plenty of conversation in the boxing world after he gave his full support to a potential showdown between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua.
I want to change subjects just a little bit here, and Anthony Joshua, there's rumours circulating he could be fighting Jake Paul next. One, do you think it's good for boxing, and two, do you think the fight will happen?
I think it's great for boxing. I think the fight will happen. AJ is 1-0 against these guys that come in to these boxing careers late. So why not?
Jones, a man who has fought some of the biggest names in boxing, highlighted Joshua's impressive victory over Francis Ngannou as a reason why he thinks Joshua could easily handle Jake Paul. He pointed out that Joshua's undefeated record against latecomers to the sport, like Ngannou, made him the perfect opponent to take on Paul, who has garnered attention as a YouTuber turned boxer. According to Jones, Joshua's style would be ideal for dismantling Jake Paul, but it's not just about the competition for Jones, it's about the financial incentives. He was quick to suggest that Joshua could earn more fighting Jake Paul than he would against most other potential opponents. In other words, a fight against Paul could be the best way for Joshua to make big money while also continuing to rebuild his career after a string of recent setbacks.
He's a perfect guy to take him out too. He took Ngannou out. Why would he not take Jake Paul out? And for him, he'd probably make more money fighting Jake Paul than he will fight anybody else that he can fight right now. So why would he not do it? I mean, not that he needs the money right now anyway, but if he's going to do something, if you want to get a good win to put him back on the scene, that's a perfect win. You get a lot of money doing it.
Meanwhile, heavyweight boxer Derek Chisora has his own thoughts on the situation. Chisora doesn't downplay the value of Paul's contributions to boxing, but he's not convinced the YouTuber should step into the ring with a former champion like Joshua. Speaking with the Sun Sports Split Decision, Chisora openly acknowledged that Jake Paul has done a lot to bring new eyes to the sport, especially by drawing in fans who may not have otherwise been interested in boxing. He even mentioned how his own children were unfamiliar with boxing legend Mike Tyson until they saw Paul's high-profile fight against him.
Listen, Jake Paul is doing so many things great for boxing. I don't care what everybody says. If he's gonna fight ex-boxers, you know, he should fight Roy Jones next.
How does the Joshua fight go between Jake and Joshua?
I will tell him not to fight Joshua.
However, Chisora's admiration for Jake Paul's work in boxing doesn't translate into him supporting a fight between Paul and Joshua. Chisora firmly believes that if the fight happens, it could end very badly for Paul, who he says would get smoked out by the much larger and more experienced Joshua. He suggested that Paul would be better off facing someone like Roy Jones Jr. first, perhaps as a way to test his skills against someone with a more comparable history and experience in the sport. Chisora even threw in the idea that after fighting Jones, Paul should consider taking on boxing's biggest name, Floyd Mayweather.
Because Joshua will actually smoke him out for the sake of it. Yeah. Joshua will smoke him out. So I'll tell him, you know what, you got your thing going on. Fight Roy Jones, fight Floyd Mayweather, fight all these guys. Don't fight AJ.
But Chisora isn't the only one questioning the potential fight. Dave Allen, a British heavyweight, also took issue with the idea of Jake Paul stepping into the ring with Anthony Joshua. On his own YouTube channel, Allen expressed disbelief that anyone would even suggest such a match. He went so far as to compare Jake Paul's ability to that of a relatively unknown fighter, Lewis Oakford, who holds a record of 6'3". According to Allen, Oakford would actually be the favorite in a fight against Paul, who has yet to prove himself against top-tier competition. In fact, Allen didn't hold back when he said that the very thought of Jake Paul facing someone like Joshua was ridiculous.
Anthony Joshua, Jake Paul, probably a bit late with this one, but we'll talk about it today. Ridiculous. Like, the Southern Area Cruiserweight champion is actually, I think, Lewis Oakford, who Pat Stockton around. Now, Jake Paul, I think around that level, like, put Oakford in with Jake Paul, who would win? I'd make Oakford a favourite, actually. And Oakford's not bad, I'm not saying that to bring him down. I don't think he's bad. He got stopped by Alois Jr. and Pat Brown, who are very good prospects, you know, possibly world level cruiserweights in time. So I'm not bringing Oakford down, he's a good fighter, but he's a Southern Area champion. And I'd make him a favourite against Jake Paul. Now imagine me saying he's gonna box Anthony Joshua. You'd say, what the fuck are you on about? Like, If I was going to watch Lewis Hopefoot, you say that's ridiculous.
Allen emphasized that while Paul may have fought a few professionals, his overall record, especially his loss to Tommy Fury, proves that he's not yet at the level needed to face someone as dangerous as Joshua. For Allen, Joshua's status as a former heavyweight champion and his status as one of the sport's most dominant figures means a fight between him and Paul is nothing more than a spectacle. In fact, Allen doubted the fight would even happen, suggesting that Joshua wouldn't take such a bout seriously given his lucrative career and current financial security.
You know, when Pat Brown were boxing, people think, oh, that's an easy match. Jake Paul, I don't believe is as good as him. You know, would Jake Paul win an area title? Maybe. He's only fought one active pro fighter and he lost. Jake Paul, I think he's doing good for boxing. Not necessarily with his own fight, but I think he's doing good for boxing. For the Serranos, the Taylors, Camerons, fantastic really. And for Ramirez and Dorticos, they got in Schofield against Farmer, big audience. But him and Joshua, I don't think it will happen. I think Anthony Joshua would see himself as above that. He's got all the money in the world anyway, so I hope not.
Jake checks out Anthony Joshua, the entire thing is fixed. This is Anthony Joshua, the two-time gold medalist, heavyweight world champion of the world. I want the very best to do it. There's not enough hours in the day for Jake Paul to last longer than 30 seconds with Anthony Joshua. And Joshua trains like he's fighting Tyson Fury or Usyk. This, in the actual real world that we live in, no matter what Jake does, should not last longer than 30 seconds. That's the truth, and I love Jake. And I condone what he's doing. So if for whatever reason this thing is set up where he clips Joshua, it will sadly take everything Anthony Joshua has done.
Adding fuel to the fire, none other than Tyson Fury has joined the conversation, albeit with a very different stance. The Gypsy King, who has been at the top of the heavyweight division for years, seems to believe that Jake Paul might actually have a chance against Anthony Joshua. Fury didn't hold back when speaking about the potential fight, confidently declaring that Jake Paul would win. In a recent interview, Fury said he was so sure of Paul's victory that he would bet £1 million on the YouTuber coming out on top. This bold claim has definitely caught the attention of boxing fans everywhere, as Fury's confidence in Paul's abilities is surprising, given that Paul is still relatively new to the sport.
There's been some talk about possibly Joshua using Jake Paul as a tune-up to fight you. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know about tune-up. I think Jake Paul knocks him out.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Why so? What impresses you about Jake Paul?
I just think Jake Paul would knock AJ out. I think AJ's a spent force, and I think Jake Paul's on the rise. And I like his new heavyweight look. Bit chubby, bit bulky.
Eddie Hearn also commented on the potential fight, stating that it looks like the bout could happen if Paul is truly serious. He acknowledged Tyson Fury's confidence in Jake Paul's chances, but emphasized that if both sides are committed, the fight could break records, even surpassing the big pay-per-view numbers expected from fights like Canelo versus Crawford. Hearn revealed he had already contacted Jake Paul's manager, Nakisa Badarian, and plans to discuss the fight further next week. However, he urged caution, warning everyone involved to be careful about what they wish for, given the massive attention and stakes that would come with such a high-profile clash.
Jake Paul, Anthony Joshua 50-50 fight, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I just said in another interview, great if it is. I mean, if it is, then you've got no problem seeing it. But when AJ, I mean, decapitate's a strong word, but you know, when he renders Jake Paul unconscious like he did to Francis Ngannou, don't then say, oh well, it was Jake Paul. Do you know what I mean? I mean, when AJ beat Francis Ngannou, Ngannou just had a fight that could have gone either way with Tyson Fury. Then AJ poleaxed him, and everyone just said he's just an MMA fighter. Do you know what I mean? Jake Paul's not Francis Ngannou. But as I said before, if you want to see Jake Paul exit the the boxing world, make the fight.
Tyson's father, John Fury, also chimed in on the potential fight, and his thoughts were even more outlandish. When reminded that Tyson had expressed confidence in Jake Paul defeating Joshua, John made a bizarre and humorous remark, suggesting that Anthony Joshua could knock Jake Paul out with his private parts if the fight were to happen. While his comment was clearly meant to be tongue-in-cheek, it added yet another layer of intrigue to the already polarizing debate surrounding the fight. John Fury took it a step further by warning Joshua not to take a dive if the match were to occur, insinuating that if the fight didn't go the way everyone expected, there could be questions about the integrity of the bout.
Anthony, listen to me. Don't take a dive with this Jake Paul, mate. Do not do that, not for $1 billion, my pal. Don't do as the others have done. Do not take dives. If he fights, you knock him dead as a nip. Joshua could knock Jake Paul out with his. If it goes any other way, you know it's fucking fixed, don't you?
Despite the skepticism and mixed reactions from some of boxing's most respected figures, there's no denying that the idea of a fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua is a hot topic. On one hand, you have Roy Jones Jr., who is all for it, seeing it as an opportunity for both fighters to make money and for boxing to generate more buzz. On the other hand, you have fighters like Chisora, Allen, and Fury who have their doubts about how competitive the fight would be, especially given the glaring differences in experience and skill between the two men.
I wanted to give a little opinion on everything I've been seeing on social media lately. Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. Just wanted to come in here and remind everybody that that bum couldn't beat me when I basically had a broken hand. I had one hand and he still lost. Jake Paul, I'm still your daddy, and everybody weighing this fight up, don't bother, because he ain't worth a shilling. And the loss will always be there, Mr. Paul. Take it easy and have a good day.
The question now is whether this fight will ever come to fruition. While some in the boxing world are optimistic about the possibilities, others remain skeptical. There are certainly financial incentives for both Paul and Joshua, and it's clear that a bout between the two would generate massive attention, even if it's primarily for the spectacle of it all. After all, the business side of boxing can often trump the sporting side, and as long as the money is right, there's a chance the fight could happen.
Listen, commercially, of course it works because it'll be huge and there'll be a load of money on the table. And for Anthony Joshua, it's like sort of, you know, he's going to get rewarded very well with no risk, minimal risk, no risk at all. He's going to go in there and he may then put all this stuff to bed with Jake Paul and calling out all these different champions, etc., etc. So, of course it works. And when you're talking about, you know, the credibility that Joshua's going to get, he's not going to get none now, but are people going to remember that? Of course they're not. Like, when he goes on to do what he does, didn't Muhammad Ali have some sort of strange fight in the middle of his career? Didn't he box? Yeah, he did. He boxed some non-boxing guy and whatnot. Like, people don't remember that. That's what I'm saying. Look, us as boxers, we don't remember stuff like that.
It was replicated in Rocky. So, he did a version of Fighting Thunderlips, didn't he? So we all know that happened.
In the end, the fight between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua could go one of two ways. Either Joshua would dominate Paul in a way that would solidify his place as one of the sport's biggest stars, or Jake Paul could shock the world by pulling off the unthinkable and knocking out the former champion. Regardless of the outcome, one thing is certain, it would be one of the most talked about events in boxing for years to come. For now, it seems the only thing left to do is wait and see how the situation develops. Will Jake Paul rise to the challenge and step into the ring with a heavyweight champion, or will Anthony Joshua look elsewhere to rebuild his career? Only time will tell. Until then, the conversations, debates, and predictions will only continue to grow.